Joe Clarke opened Forte Jazz Lounge in 2019 to provide a culture centerpiece in the heart of Charleston's historic district. Today, I talk one-on-one with Joe about the lounge and his Joe Clarke Big Band for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Joe Clarke, welcome to the award-winning Quintin's Close-Ups.
All right. Thank you for having me.
You are the owner of Forte Jazz Lounge, which is right around the corner here on King Street. And I know that you and your wife, Rosie Clarke, opened Forte Jazz Lounge in 2019 to provide a cultural centerpiece in the heart of Charleston, South Carolina's bustling King Street district. Who is Joe Clarke these days?
Who am I? Just a club owner and, band leader. Just a guy trying to make an entertaining spot for folks to visit us, and for when people visit Charleston, they walk away with seeing a little bit of our musical culture. Very much of our musical culture is located in restaurants and and events and things like that. So you may miss it if you don't know where to look. So we try to be a focal point for a lot of great musicians.
And let me reread that. Obviously, you opened Forte Jazz Lounge in 2019 to provide a cultural centerpiece in the heart of Charleston, South Carolina's bustling King Street district. Let me ask you another way. What is the culture centerpiece right now?
That's a really good question. It's located in many other places, like our museums and our Gibbs Museum of Art and different art installations, and all of those places do their part. But as far as music and the what's here, you can go to the music hall and see a lot of great music, but it'll be a traveling act that's coming through Charleston. And I'm not knocking it or anything like that, but you're not seeing Charleston. You're seeing, what they have to offer, which is perfect. It's fine. But so it's kind of hard to see. I mean, and also, where I am at the tippity top of Upper King, I guess you would say, everything further up from us is really, I feel, and a lot of people have commented this, is designed mostly for the younger folks in their 20s. You know what I'm saying? And this place is, it's for everybody, but it's very friendly for, folks in their 30s and 40s and 50s and people who are looking for a little bit of entertainment without necessarily, sitting at a bar waiting for a drink for 10, 15 minutes. You know what I'm saying? So they wait 30 minutes for us. No, I'm kidding. That's a joke. Okay. No, we're very fast. We have 2 little bars and everything.
Yeah, that's amazing. You obviously, Forte Jazz Lounge, as you mentioned, is open to everyone. But what is your target demographic right now?
Really, I try to pull in the families, because we're very family friendly. We have a bar, but we're not a bar. It's like going to the movies and seeing, a G-rated show. They might serve a beer at the concessions, and that's as far as we go. We have a lot of great selections, and we have charcuterie now on Fridays and Saturdays. But our target, I wouldn't say that we have a target demographic. We try to pull in everybody. We have so many shows that may appeal to different folks, but we try to spread those out throughout every month. We have something good for everybody, and I'm really hoping that if somebody comes and sees my show, I always push the other shows, that may be different from mine, like the Gatsby Orchestra is very closely related to what we do, but they, when I say, hey, come and see Charles Grant, or come and see Legacy, or come and see Porto Seguro, which is a Brazilian band, it would spark their interest to try something new, or maybe, and vice versa. I urge my other band leaders that get up on the stage to say, hey, come on out and see the other shows, So hopefully we're cross-pollinating and creating an enriched environment for people to come out and see many, many different things.
Let me ask you. Obviously, you are obviously a performer and you have your own band. What is your approach to performing on stage?
It's really creating a unique and genuine. I hope it's genuine. It seems genuine. Connection to the audience. I mean, there's a contrivancy there. Obviously, I'm singing in front of a 17-piece orchestra. There's nothing natural about this situation. So it's to make it look like we're just having a great time and we're just having a great conversation. And I'll comment on a few things. I'm a very I have not a big soapbox, a little soapbox that I talk about how music and kids and jazz in particular can be a way to set their minds up in a way that they can learn how to solve problems creatively and on their own, and understand their unique voice as well as where they stand with the people around them. You can't, there's obviously people that we remember in jazz, but, Dizzy Gillespie, Louis Armstrong, but they wouldn't really, they're great because they were surrounded by, wonderful musicians who either pushed them or enhanced what they did. So, I try to bring those kinds of things up, and it tends to connect with the audience. So really, to answer your question, is just to connect, and just be as genuine and authentic as I possibly can in this very unnatural situation.
And generally speaking, obviously, Joe, how do you solve problems creatively with music?
Oh wow! Well, I just keep reminding myself, whatever problem comes my way, I need to be a part of. I'm part of the problem, first of all. I need to recognize my role in it, and then just start really. One lesson I learned from reading a Buddhist book somewhere is that all outcomes are legitimate, and the way I try to see things is that, okay, if I did this, what happens there? If I did this, come up with many options to things, and try to quickly see what the end of that would be, and try to do no harm to the people around me as I'm solving these problems, So creating a solution instead of just inventing one that may have consequences around me. I have to keep in mind, obviously, the people that I work with, but also my family. And if I come up with a solution that takes time away from my family that I was planning on having, that's not a solution. So I'm spinning a lot of plates. If your audience understands that reference, there used to be this thing on Johnny Carson where this guy would come out and spin plates on these dowels, and he'd try to keep as many of them going as possible, and then eventually it would just all come crashing down. And for some reason, that was entertaining. I don't know why, but anyway, that's where that comes from, I guess. And spinning plates and hoping that as many of them go as fast as possible and don't come crashing down. So all my creative solutions hopefully have a tinge of respect for the people around me, and just I want it to be something that benefits everybody.
Yes, sir. And how many plates are spinning in your circle right now?
Oh my God. So, I mean, it depends on what you call a plate. I mean, if you just call the club a plate, that's one big plate, okay? And I was just thinking about this the other day. I taught jazz piano for 18 plus years, and I was always having, because of the low pay, I was always having to have a side hustle. I was always having to have gigs that night after teaching for 8 hours. It wasn't, it was life, and I had the energy, in my 30s and 40s, and I'm 55 now, and I don't think I could pull it off anymore. and I don't think I would want to. That's the thing. Before I was kind of thinking, feeling like a big superhero running around working all the time, but now it just feels. That's why I had to make a decision. So I was. So that's one big plate, the big club. But every day of the week, we consider something to do, and sometimes within a season, let's say between April and August, we might go 7 days a week. Whereas from February to March, we might just do 5 or 6 days a week and just take a day off. So, but each day is a plate, that's spinning. And we try to do the formula that we try to adhere to is that, the night before is nothing like the next night, or it offers something a little differently, but it's all good and all jazz and related to jazz in that wheelhouse. And I get in a little bit of trouble because everybody, even jazz musicians, have different definitions of the word jazz and its application. And the best definition I've heard, it's jazz is not really a name of a kind of a music, like country music or rock and roll, or jazz is more of a philosophy and an approach to music. And it's how, you look at the rules of music, you learn them as best as you can, and everybody is at a different level. Every single jazz musician understands things at a different level in a different way. They know how to get into a problem. They know how to get out of a problem. They know how to create moments for their audience. And sometimes they're very introspective and they just do things there for themselves. And sometimes they're working out some things like a particularly difficult passage. They're trying to work on something that they heard on a Charlie Parker record. They're trying to fit into a song. Everybody's got agendas and approaches, but that's really jazz. If you hear an improvised guitar solo on a Luther Vandross record, that's jazz. That guitar player had to look at those changes, look at those chords, and say, what would really sound cool on this, and I think people would really like is if I did this. That's jazz. So that's how I sort of. I guess I don't want to say rationalize because it's not a rationalization. That's how I build my calendar, around so many different genres of music, with the R&B and the Latin stuff and everything. So as long as it has some components of improvisation and everybody's got something to say, and everybody has a voice, to me, that's jazz. So, relax. It's a lounge, right?
Yeah, that's all. No worries there. What is your philosophy and approach, Joe, for music? Or to music, I should say.
Yeah, well, 4 and 2. Those are 2 numbers, right? 4 and 2. Okay, so my approach to music is that it's very much similar to, I think I heard Louis Armstrong say this, there's only 2 kinds of music, good and bad. And if you enjoy it, go on and enjoy it, and it's good, right? And if you don't enjoy it, well, go listen to something else. That's pretty simple, I think. Right. But my philosophy for the musician, especially the young musician who's deciding, okay, because a lot of people think that music is a vocation, which it is. It doesn't have to be. It could be like painting. It could be like, you have your little corner of the house that you have your supplies and you have nice lighting and you read up on it. You read books about it. You get better and better and better over the years, and you never sell one painting. That's selling it and being part of the commerce, capitalistic sort of approach isn't the goal always. Sometimes it's just artistic enrichment. I think every single person on this planet would do well to have music lessons as a child. If they all had music lessons, I think this would be a better place. If we had no music lessons, that would be horrible. Okay, so in just pure logic, I think the more kids have access to music, and that's one of my little, if I had $1,000,000, I remember people say that it doesn't. $1,000,000 will get you through. That's not a lot of money anymore.
Right.
But if I had a billion, I would put music in every school within my reach. It just needs to happen, and it can't be. We have a lot of great teachers who are running around to different schools being their music teacher. That's, to me, with all the wealth and everything that we have in our communities, it shouldn't be a thing. There should be enriching music in every school, teaching kids. That's music is a philosophy, really. Because if you can play by yourself or play with other people, aren't we becoming better people, right? So, that's, and you don't have to be great or good at it to enjoy it necessarily. Look at all of modern music. I'm sure there's great music out there. Taylor Swift. No, I'm kidding. That's horrible. I'm sure she's fantastic.
Well, let me ask you, what is the state of music education?
Well, there's a lot of great things going on. There's a lot of wonderful things going on, but not at every school. Not at every school. So we know how to do it. We know how to have good programs, but only some schools are getting them. Now, I don't know enough of the data to tell you, oh, this school needs it and that school, is doing great. But we all know, that some schools are doing wonderfully, and they have deep programs, meaning that there's something for every level of musician. They have the higher level bands and their lower level bands, and that kind of thing. Just like we build sports programs, we have varsity and junior varsity, and that's important too. That teaches kids cooperation. It teaches kids how to get out there and get hurt sometimes and make mistakes and win, and how to be sportsmanship and all that stuff, and that's important too. But you see where that situation is a little tilted too. All the money's going in that direction because that's what I guess a lot of people understand. You get more people sitting in seats and buying tickets to your events if they're sporting events, not so much for music concerts. And maybe that's a thing. But I think that if you build it from the bottom up, giving every kid music lessons on some level, not every kid's going to be great. Not every kid's going to be rotten, So some of them are going to come to school and take their little recorder, little thing, and snap it in half right in front of the teacher, and they're not going to want to do it. And that's a thing too. So, I'm not saying that every kid's going to be happy doing this, but they will walk away having learned a little bit of something about working with others and playing on their own.
How well, Joe, does people these days actually understand music?
I'm sorry, say that again.
How well do people understand music today?
That's a good question. I was playing piano one time at a party, and this guy sits next to me and he goes, now, on the piano keyboard, there's white keys and there's black keys. And he goes, now the black keys are jazz, right? That's where all the jazz music is. And for me to explain to him why and how he was wrong about that would have taken a great deal of time and effort to back up and say, well, actually,
right.
There's 12 keys, and here are the notes, and they involve white and black keys, right. And it would have taken too long, so I just said sure, so that was his understanding of it. And so if you don't play music, there's a really good chance that you don't understand what the discipline really is about, whereas the good audience member will understand, the meaning of a piece, the depths of a piece. If you're talking about classical music, they know the difference between Mozart and Beethoven. I think that's the general business understanding. They might be able to distinguish between Charlie Parker and now I'm blanking on all my saxophone friends, and another saxophonist, let's say, and that's good. That's a good level for an audience member to go, oh, we're listening to Confirmation. That's Charlie Parker, but I not to call into question everybody's their not to call into question their credentials. That's the word I was looking for. I think the average person's understanding of music is their recognition of a particular genre or a tune, and they leave all the technical stuff to us.
I bet. Let me ask you, when, Joe, do you use that capitalistic approach to music? When do you use that?
Well, if you want to raise a family, all the time. It's a fine mixture between commerce and your artistic choices. Like, for instance, my first Saturday of the month is my big band playing Swingin' Sinatra Saturday. That's our little program there, and but I wouldn't want to do that every night of the week, because it would get old. So that's a capitalistic decision. That's like, okay, let's do. I think the frequency on this for most people is going to be once a month, and let's move on to something else. So, during the last 2 years, we've done a lot of work testing things out. I've brought in people from out of state, who are wonderful, really good musicians, world class, but nobody knows their names. And unfortunately, it didn't really bring in what we would call a steady stream for us, So so we had to make a choice. Do we focus it, on all of our local folks, and then do an occasional out of towner, So that it really is. It's always a little piece of the puzzle, because every night of the week, because the rent comes due every month, and the electricity needs to be paid, and the water needs to be paid, and people need to be paid, the musicians need to be paid. So if I'm looking at those numbers, I look at those numbers every day, and make sure we have plenty in the bank to make sure that all of our bills and all of our people are paid, and I take a risk every once in a while. I give myself an opportunity to take a risk, like every couple of months or so, to see, okay, let's see if this works. But sometimes it wins and sometimes it doesn't. But that's part of the capitalistic system too. If you're not growing and changing, you're gonna fall off, people's radar. You got to do something special. There's another piece of philosophy that I've always adhered to is people are funny. They like two things. They like consistency and they like inconsistency. Because if you're doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, it gets boring. But if you are here and there and there and here and here and there, then they don't have anything to hang on to, and so they lose interest in that. Because they're like, well, what are they doing now?
Right.
So it's a fine mixture. We try to keep it interesting, but fairly consistent throughout the month, so people can go, yeah, I'm going to that that's on the first Saturday, or that's on the first Friday with Alba, or second Saturdays with Gracie and Lacey. They always put on a great show.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes, indeed. Obviously, I had them on Quintin School stuff many years ago. But let me ask you, Joe, what are the consistencies and the inconsistencies in the music industry today?
Well, that's a good question. I don't really listen. I haven't listened to modern music in I want to say 15, 20 years, not critically. I've heard it on the radio, but it's like, I don't know any of the artists. You hear about Taylor Swift. That's why I even mentioned her. The last famous musician or singer or whatever that I was aware of was Britney Spears. And now she's in her 40s and wrestling her conservatorship. I mean, why do I know these things? I don't want to know these things. I don't care. Good for you. I'm glad you wrestled all that money from your dad, who was taking whatever he wanted, taking advantage of her. That's so sad. Free Britney, please. I got my problems. So anyway, unfortunately, when I do listen to modern music, I can't discern a melody. I can't discern interesting chord changes. I can't discern interesting styles or interesting solos or anybody speaking other than, and when I say speaking, I mean conveying in a musical way. I can't discern one from another. I'm sorry, I wish I could. I mean, when I was growing up, old man speak. When I was growing up in 70s and the 80s, we had this wonderful shift from, some acoustic stuff, James Taylor, Billy Joel, Elton John, Chicago, Eagles, oh man, that's where I was, right? And then Marvin Gaye and, not to distinguish or anything like that, but these are all the things that we were all listening to. We were listening to real drums, real guitars, real strings, real bass players, real amazing musicians. Earth, Wind and Fire. I mean, come on, And then the 80s hit, and we started hearing more electronic stuff, Hey, okay, cool. But you still heard great melodies. Devo came along and was just like, yeah, okay. I made this quirky little, music that was supposed to be, sort of modern and whatever. And Thomas Dolby, she blowed in me with science. It was kind of a novelty song, but what was going on in the background was real musicianship, real orchestrations, but using electronic instruments. So the 80s brought that along. And then the 90s come along and you got, Nirvana and all that. And you got guitars and basses. And there's some interesting things going on. But then I started to really lose interest, going into it because it all seemed to be formulaic, Didn't seem, it was just all muddy and just not interesting to me. And I just severely lost interest. Then I started turning back to my roots and, really just doing the big band and things that I really like to do. I stopped learning new music back in the 90s, I think. And that's when I started my big band, in 93.
93, wow, that's amazing. What is the biggest difference between 1993 and 2021 right now when you think of the Joe Clarke Big Band?
Oh, well, the personnel has changed quite a bit. And I've collected quite a bit more music in my library. At the time, I was very much interested in singing all of my favorite Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Tony Bennett songs. and things that I had heard when I was a kid back in the 70s, and listening to my dad's records and things like that. You know, and I had a lot of friends who were very interested to see where I would take this, and so they would contribute to my library. They'd say, here's a chart on I could write a book, and here's a chart on Have You Met Miss Jones? And I would pay a little bit for it, but clearly not nearly as much as some other folks. They were just very good to me. And but then let's see, the big band, we would do like an event here and there. And then so I created this swing band thing, which was like 10 pieces, and that was like a travel size. And a lot of bands do that. They come up with a smaller group. And then the quartet, we played dozens and dozens and dozens of weddings. In fact, just the other day, a piano player that I asked to play with us informed me. He says, you played my wedding like 15 years ago, right? I'm like, yes.
I don't remember.
No, but it's very, very cool. I run into a lot of people that I play their weddings, So now that's over with. I don't do that anymore. I can't do it. It's just not that I don't like playing weddings. I mean, I don't, but that's not the reason why. I'm kidding. Okay, so where was I? Sorry, I interrupted myself.
Oh no, you're talking about obviously the people who were playing in your band and whatnot.
Right. A lot of folks have come through the band. The last 3 years now, I made a concerted effort before Forte was even a thing. Forte Jazz Lounge was even a thing. I wanted to have a rehearsal band, and a lot of people have tried to do that, where they have a band come in, you rehearse many, many tunes, you have challenging ones, you have fun ones, and you're just there to be in that environment, because it's very rare that jazz musicians are able to play in an orchestra situation. The CJO is one option, but those guys are set. You're not going to be invited to that if you're not part of that crew. So I put together mine, and we would meet on Mondays. And for about a year, we met like at church social halls. And there was a place in North Charleston that we would meet, that we were given a key to. And they were just happy to help us out. They didn't charge us or anything. So that was very cool. Because the big band takes up a lot of space. You need about 20 by 24, no less than that, to just be in a space. And so we needed a good size space. So that was a thing for about a year and a half or so. And then this opportunity in 2019 started. So that's when I said, okay, now all of this makes sense. I can put my band in there, and we started building that thing up. And it took us about 4 or 5 months to get that place ready for us to open. We walked in the door March 2019 and opened the door August 2019. So it took a while. But where the band is now, the library is to the point where I can put on a different show every Saturday if I wanted to, which is a good place to be. A lot of bands have a very static sort of song list, and we have so much music that we can make a completely different show 4 weekends in a row.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you talk about that show. How creative are you in that moment when you are on the stage?
Oh man. I try to do things a little differently every time. I never remember any of my jokes, so that they have to be new every time. I just sometimes will just start talking about some stuff I did that day, and just how funny situations occur with my wife and my kids and everything. And so that's creative. That's different. And as far as when I'm singing a song, I try not to do it the same exact way every single time. There's some things you have to adhere to, because you're part of, when you're singing in front of a big band, you're part of that orchestration too. If I'm singing "Fly Me to the Moon," I might go "Fly me to the moon." I can't just go "Fly me to the moon and let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter as Mars." that's, I guess, creative too.
Yeah.
But it's not complementary to the music and the style in which I'm in. You know, I'm one of the voices in that thing. So, you know, I need to make it work too.
Cool. Oh yes. And what is that experience when they step into your lounge? I'm right on the corner here from King Street. But what is that experience for the audience?
Oh man, I hope it's joyful from the minute they step through the door to the minute they step out the door. You know, and if you look at our reviews, which I'm very proud of, you know, people are really responding to what we're doing, and I'm very that's proof right there. You know, all the gambles
Yes.
and all the risks and everything were worth it because people are really seeing what we're doing. The experience is that when they walk through the door, if they already have a ticket, they've gone online, they've seen the show, the title, and you know they might be a little curious as to what this is really all going to be about because we don't give away everything, you know, the song list and everything. You know, we don't want to do that.
Right.
So we got to leave it a little mysterious. They walk in, they can check in at the concierge, or they can check in at the first bar in the lobby and get their beer and wine or whatever, and charcuterie there. They get to their table, which is designated by their ticket purchase. They come in. We have two concierges, a person who can usher them to their seat, and they get to their seat. The show starts hopefully promptly at 7 or 9:30, depending on which show they went to. And for the first show, you know, we have a 2-hour show with a 15-minute intermission, and we start off with a nice big bang, you know, and then we try to weave in there not only upbeat, exciting songs, but nice ballads and, you know, romantic songs and maybe a novelty song here and there with some funny lyrics. And, you know, and I break it up a little bit with, you know, talking to them, you know, a little Joe talk instead of a TED talk, you know, about the importance of jazz music and why we make this place family friendly. So yeah. So and anyway, so they go till 9 o'clock, and then they head on out, and then we mix it back up. We turn the room over, and we get it going at 9:30.
Wow, that's amazing. How important will jazz be to this community in the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh man, this is going to go on forever and ever and ever. The Charleston Jazz has done an amazing job revitalizing the interest in jazz. There's a whole community backing up their efforts, and hopefully what we're doing is with Forte Jazz Lounge is creating a space where people can come in on a weekly basis and get infused with this great American music. I mean, there's all sorts to choose from, but whatever you come to, the power of jazz music is that you're seeing people communicate on a musical level, and that's just energy. That's positive, good energy. There's no controversy. I mean, how much of our daily lives is just inundated by controversy and conflict, and people just back and forth, Democrat, Republican, liberal, conservative, this, that, Trump, this, Biden, that. I mean, I am so drained all day just listening to all of that back and forth, and I just hope we, you know, and I know I got a little off track there.
No way.
but what I'm saying is that this jazz music in this town, I can't speak for other towns, Savannah, you know, Columbia around us and all that stuff, but Charleston has a special history. You know, we're kind of in a little bit of a bubble. We have our very eclectic, you know, we get a lot of folks from all over the world coming here. And so we need to be something a little different. And I think our jazz music is going to keep propelling us towards this national attraction, and global attraction to Charleston. So, I mean, I'm going to do my part. I'm going to keep pushing and keeping this place alive, and hopefully being this focal point. And Charleston Jazz, who I'm a part of as well, by the way, I'm a board member. They're going to put on their concerts and push their initiatives, which are for education as well. So it's all working together.
And what will be your musical style in the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, I'm not moving. I'm just going to stay right where I am. I love big band. I love, singing, crooning, great songs. I'm just going to keep building and learning as many songs as I can to make every show. I don't want people to come and see the same 12 songs over and over and over again. So I will keep going and learning as many songs and making it as entertaining, learn new jokes from time to time. And just, my job is to keep being a better and better entertainer, so that when people show up, if they come out multiple times, they feel like they've seen something different, than the last time they were there.
Wow. And what is on your musical playlist these days?
Oh, my playlist? Oh, you would be surprised. Very surprised. Because it depends on what mode I'm in. If I'm in work mode, like if I'm like just doing some repetitious stuff, like, setting up the band or something like that, all those music stands need to be set up a certain way across the board. And, everything I have to do is like, I have to do it 18 times for each musician. I put the light on, put the switch on, put the book on, put the song list on, put the, so I put on some of my 80s and 70s and 80s music. My wife, anybody listening? My wife and I, we listen to Bee Gees.
Ah.
And we listen to, I like Phil Collins. People will laugh at me for that, but I do. I like Genesis. I'm a keyboard player from the 80s, so I listen to a lot of that stuff. And, like those artists I was mentioning before. So my playlist, now if I'm about to learn some new stuff, that's all you're going to hear in my car. Like I'm trying to learn the lyrics to Too Close for Comfort. That's a song I didn't listen to when I was a kid. So it's not in my brain. So I got to drill it in there, and I might be listening to that over and over again in the car, and God help you if you're in that car with me, because you're just going to hear, sorry, that's what you're going to hear for the whole 45 minutes that we're in the car. Too close for comfort, please, not again. And I try to do it, with ease, It's not enough to just get up there and karaoke your way through a song. You have to really, convey it and look around the room and not be, so it takes a lot of effort for me. I don't know about other people. So.
And Joe, how do you read a room when you're up there on that stage?
Oh, it's pretty, it can be difficult, because sometimes I'll just say a few interesting things and note there's nothing coming back. And it's like, okay, next song. So if they're not responding to the little silly things that I might say to them, then that's a little hard to read. But we get a lot of great audiences. The people are there to have a great time, and we, I love making them laugh and smile, and but that's really the biggest feedback, is the first couple of jokes that I tell them, are pretty standard things. They're not going to be anything like too controversial. But if I don't get much from them from that, then I'll make it more about the music. If they seem to be responding to me as an entertainer, I will, I might talk a little bit more, and be a little bit more glib.
Yes, sir. What musical instrument describes you as an entertainer?
Oh, no. Well, I always wanted to play the piano, and I started off as a drummer, and I went to trumpet, and I played trumpet all through half of my high school and all of college. And but I started going into piano, keyboard, playing in rock bands and stuff like that in the 80s. But when I got out of college in 89, 90, I realized I needed to really learn a little bit about the piano. So I think I'm answering your question. The piano really is describes me. I've got a lot of, this big range, I hope, of understanding that I can stand in front of a band and direct them in the direction I want them to and speak effectively. And, sometimes it's about conveying, what you need from them. And anyway, so just being able to hit those multiple layers and spectra of ideas, I think the piano really describes me, best.
Best. And how would you describe the Forte Jazz Lounge to the average person or average Charlestonian who hasn't been there yet?
Well, it's kind of like a movie theater experience, but it's like having a live band in your living room, because the first two rows are couches, and then back from there, about the last four rows, the next four rows, I should say, are cocktail tables. So it's very much like sitting at your kitchen table or at on couches in your living room and watching this live band. And it's not like this massive vacuous space. It's you're sitting in about 3,000 square feet, maybe less, and there's about 100 seats around you. And it's like going to a small rehearsal party. That vibe where if you want a drink, you get up and you go and get it. We don't have waiters and waitresses. We made a decision early on that we wouldn't have that going on. Not that it wouldn't be convenient for everybody, because every once in a while we do have people say, "Gee, I wish you had a waiter." Well, and I go, well, if you had 5 of them running around working their own little sets, their sections, it would be distracting.
Yeah.
And and I think that most people get their drink at the beginning or their whatever, and they sit down, and that's it. That's the end. What else do they need? Some folks will get a glass and they'll want another glass, and that's when they want a waiter. And I'm like, we sure got a bottle. So, but anyway, but that goes back to that experience, to the patron, when they're there. It's like being at your house. If you want a drink, you're going to have to go back up to the refrigerator, right? So welcome home.
Right. And how can we get tickets if we want to go and visit one of the shows at your lounge?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's easy. ForteJazzLounge.com. And just visit there, scroll down a little bit, and you will see all the shows lined up right there.
That's amazing.
And click on, I think it says register instead of buy tickets. I'm not sure what it says right now. We've had some glitchiness there, but there's a button that's right there on every event where you just click on it, and it'll take you to Eventbrite, which is our new ticketing platform since the summer. And it'll take you there, and you can choose your seat most of the time. Occasionally we'll have a show where it's general seating, where you just buy a ticket and first come, first serve. But most of our shows, you can choose your own seat.
That is amazing. Well, yeah. Joe Clarke, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to the award-winning Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you. You're a very good interviewer. I appreciate that. Good questions.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.